Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Comparison Part 3. So this is part of a social study, How Do I Answer Comparison SBQ. We are going to tackle the third part. So how to write a basic comparison answer, and that's what we're here to find out in this video. This is a series of videos covering comparison. Today we're going to tackle basic answering techniques. The issue: how far have Singaporeans welcomed foreign manpower into the country? And this is what we are addressing in this example. So these two sources we are quite familiar. You have probably seen them before, and the basic key idea is to focus on the greatest percentage or the trend. This is the second source, source B. If you're not very sure about this source, please pause here so you can read the source. Otherwise, we will go on. So the question: how similar are these two sources? Explain your answer. And it's 6 marks between studying sources A and B. We are tackling both similarity and differences in this case. So if you're not sure, please watch part 1. Part 1 explains the different requirement of the comparison question. There are two ways to address this, which is the basic way of addressing. We are tackling the source type, provenance, and content. And if you are more adventurous, you'll be on the next video. You'll be tackling the advanced way, where we are talking about the tone and purpose. So the basic way when we talk about source type. So source type, what it actually does is to recognize what type of source it is. So it could be a newspaper article, magazine article, photograph, or it could be a cartoon. So the difference is that cartoon is the imagination or a figment of imagination from the cartoonist, while photograph, it can be manipulated, but the idea it highly resemble real life. An example of a source type match will be these sources are different in the source type. Source A are findings from a survey, while source B are comments from a blog. And that will guarantee L1. But that's right, it is wasted because it only gets you 1 mark out of perhaps 6 marks, and that won't even guarantee you will pass. So why write that 2 lines or 1 sentence, right? The next way is the provenance. So under provenance, we are more interested in the author. So we found about the author, we found about the date or place. So these sources are different in the author. We are in source A are findings from the Institute of Policy Studies of Singapore, while source B are actually comments from a Singaporean. So this will also guarantee L1, and yes, it is wasted because it's only guarantee you 1 mark, and why bother doing it, right? Last but not least, we will tackle the content. It is the crux, and this is where you start to see your marks soar beyond just L1. Based on our last description after source analysis, if you have not watched, please go right ahead and click on part 2. We have analyzed the source and we have realized that there are 2 ideas behind the basis of comparison, which is the point, which is the match, which is what you are actually comparing, the criteria. We are actually tackling job security and migration, and for job security we are tackling similarities, and migration we are tackling the difference. Now, how do you place them into a complete full paragraph? The question: how similar are these 2 sources? Explain your answer. We are talking about a 2-sided answer, so in terms of similarities or difference, we will be getting at least L3. So the idea is that we need to have a point followed by the evidence of source A, followed by the explanation of source A, followed by the evidence of source B, and explanation of source B. Some students like to combine evidence of source A and B together, which is fine, but when it comes to explanation, you might find it troublesome because you need to differentiate between them. So perhaps this is a clearer way. If you decide to attempt similarity and difference, you will go on to L4. We are using the same structure. That means that you would have explained adequately to get perhaps quite a high mark. Maybe not the highest, but definitely passing. When we talk about a similarity paragraph, we are actually concerned about the point. So we need to see the word similar if the question is asking about how similar. If the question is asking about do you agree or does two sources agree, you need to see the word agree. So basically the keyword needs to be present. So the question asks for how similar. The teachers would like to see the word similar in your answer. Then after that, we'd like to see the basis of comparison, which in this case will be Singaporeans' worries about job security due to foreign talent. The more specific the match, the more accurate your answer will be. And we find the evidence, which is on talking about nearly half, which is our inference, and the actual quotation is 44.8, which I also place it there, and it agrees that they do not feel secure by their jobs due to influx of foreign talent. Then when we explain, we will try our best not to use the same words. So they show that they are worried that they might lose their job to foreigners because they are competing for the same jobs. And as for B, they are worried that they might not be able to find a job due to a foreign talent here. So Singaporeans might have difficulty securing a job due to the competing foreigners. The idea here is not to use the same word to represent, to show the teacher that you understand. That's one way to explain your answer. When you write them together in one paragraph, you are attempting a similarity paragraph, and with that, you will achieve a L3. Something to take note is that it has to be relevant to the point. So whatever that you quote in terms of evidence, it has to be relevant to the point. That means that your evidence that you write has to be related to whatever point you're mentioning. If they are not related, then this paragraph is wasted, which means that you will not be getting L3, perhaps something lower. So, when we talk about differences, what do we write? When we talk about differences, we are targeting their differences. The opposite of similar is difference. So, we change to different in the reason why Singaporeans wish to migrate. So, you can say migration reason, or you can say reason why Singaporeans wish to migrate. So, in this case, we find the actual quote. Source A tell me this: 37% of Singaporeans want to migrate due to too many foreign workers. It shows a majority, considering that 31.7% remain neutral. That means that we have slightly more than 1/3 of them actually concerned that they want to leave Singapore and seek citizenship elsewhere. That means they will stop becoming a Singaporean. In source B, it shows that Singaporeans immigrate to save their children, to spare the children of the painful stress of going through competitive education system. It shows that our Singaporeans are leaving not just because of the influx of foreigners, but mainly due to the stress of Singapore education system. So it is a different reason which you need to show in your explanation. A difference tip for writing a basis comparison: what you need to write for the basis of comparison, which is your point. One way is to show the category. That means that you tell me in the reason why Singaporeans wish to immigrate. The other one, which I will suggest now, is the number 2, if or not structure. When you say these sources are different if Singaporeans wish to immigrate due to too many foreigners or not. You notice the keywords there is if or not. So you put a sentence there, but you add the if, then or not, which later you will go on to explain. So these are 2 ways that can write basis of comparison. For difference, if you can write that way, this will not be wasted. We have come to the summary of the basic answering technique when we talk about source type, provenance, and content. The next video, we'll be tackling the advanced techniques where we talk about the tone and purpose, which will normally score the highest. That will be the end of part 3 of comparison, and thank you very much and have an awesome day. Bye bye.